You're listening to Big World Network.
Delroy Versus the Yshtari, Season 2, Episode 8, Sacrifice. Written and read by Baron Stevens. Me and all 8 of my robot buddies climbed into an open-topped Yshtari transport vehicle and lifted away from the mining area. It only took a few minutes for us to weave through the valley that led back to the main Yshtari headquarters. Once we reached it, the bot at the controls landed the craft in front of the largest of the dome-like structures. "It is time to disembark, sir," one of the bots holding a crossbow rifle said cheerfully. "And I'm sure the other men will be so happy that you're rejoining them." "Yeah, right." "Oh, seriously, sir, they will. They'll be so thrilled that you aren't missing out on the honor of being consumed by the noble Yshtari." "I think your central processor has taken a few too many hits." I walked as slowly as I could in order to give myself more time to think. "Please, go faster, sir," the bot said as he nudged his crossbow into my back. I turned to glare at him, only to see one of those idiotic LCDs displaying a cheerful, happy face. I'm going. Don't get your circuits in a wad." "But isn't it against your programming to carry weapons?" "Not anymore," the bot said. "Our new masters have reprogrammed us to be able to do all sorts of new functions." That got me thinking. If I could figure out the password to their command panel, I might be able to hack the system and take control of them. But what would the Yshtari use for a password? I decided to start basic. Passcode: Princess Space Cruises. "Nice try, sir, but I'm afraid the passwords to our command panels are now in Yshtari." "Great. How about this then? Passcode: click, click, clickety, click." "Close, sir, but not quite," the gunbot said. "Really? I was close?" "Well, not really, but I did want you to feel like you were making progress. It would not reflect well on the cruise line if you lost your self-esteem while being one of our passengers." How thoughtful. Evidently, self-esteem is more important than whether or not you get eaten. I realized, though, that these bots still had an odd mixture of their old programming along with the new. Was there a way to exploit that? Say, as lovely as it will be to be cooked and eaten with the rest of the guys, I was wondering if I could take an hour or two to lounge around at the pool. Then I'll be happy to go and get eaten. What do you say? "I'm afraid we are on a tight schedule, sir. Our masters are supposed to be back soon, and they want their meal ready when they arrive." I shook my head and purposefully looked disappointed. "I'm afraid I won't be giving you very high scores on my customer satisfaction survey. I really wanted to spend more time at the pool." "Maybe after dinner," the bot said. I hoped Minx had fared better on his mission to get the cruise ship ready, but so far I didn't hear the engines warming up. It was probably just as well, since I wasn't succeeding with my mission. We were almost to the front door of the dome. I knew that once they trapped me inside, my chances of getting away would be minimal. They had me surrounded, so all I could do was try a desperate gambit. "Look!" I shouted, pointing at a stack of cargo pods 20 meters away. "There are some space marines behind there." "I don't see anyone," the bot said. "They're there, trust me, and they're about to open fire. Shoot before they destroy you." Both armed bots raised their weapons but didn't fire. When nothing happened, they lowered their weapons. "Come on, you're in danger," I tried. "Fire!" The bot said, "I believe you just tried a subterfuge. I don't see anyone over there." As I slumped my shoulders in defeat, a miracle happened. One of the cargo pods moved. It then scooted forward and fell to the ground with a loud thump. The bots lifted their guns, rolled forward, and fired. I took advantage of the distraction in the now empty guns and ran for my life toward the cruise ship. "Sir, come back!" one of the bots shouted after me. "You're not properly cooked yet." Fortunately, 2 legs are faster than 2 treads. I sprinted for all I was worth toward the closest loading ramp into the cruise ship. By the time I reached it, I was out of breath from my quarter-mile sprint across the landing field. I glanced back to see my pursuers coming close behind. The 2 armed bots had reloaded their weapons and were raising them toward me. I dove inside the cruise ship just as 2 metallic thuds struck nearby. Lights automatically came on, enabling me to see the warm, friendly corridor of the cruise ship. It was decorated with lots of potted plants and scenic paintings. I searched for a discarded weapon or something that could be used as one, but was out of luck. My best chance would be on the bridge where the officers would have kept a weapons locker. I ran to the closest elevator and pushed the button. To my dismay, the main power was still down. Whatever happened to Minx? He should have been here by now. I turned and ran toward a wide staircase and climbed up through all the passenger decks of the ship. When I reached the deck 2 levels below the bridge, I had to stop and catch my breath. My legs were burning and my side hurt from all the exertion. A noise came from below. I looked over the edge of the rail and saw all 8 of the bots climbing the stairs. Their treads were designed to allow them to ascend the stairs rapidly, much faster than I could run. I forced myself up the stairs. The railing next to me exploded and I heard a projectile clunk into the wall next to me. That got my adrenaline pumping. I reached the top bridge level, a little ahead of my friends. "Sir," one of them pleaded, "you do yourself a great disservice by not being eaten. Please, come with us." "Over my dead body." Oops. Brilliant, Delroy. The wall next to me splintered as another projectile slammed into it, showering me with wood bits. It was a good thing these weren't combat bots, or I would have been dead. When I reached the wooden door leading to the bridge, I realized that it also wouldn't open without power. Of course, I knew about the emergency lock that could be opened in case there was a power failure, but I didn't have the key. But I still had my micro-security kit. I took it out and used the picks to work on the lock. All 8 bots reached the top of the stairs. The 2 with the guns were still reloading, so I only had a few seconds before they could fire. Sweat beaded on my forehead as I focused on the lock. The sound of the treads rolling closer across the plush carpet kept distracting me. I heard a click and the door popped. Without looking back, I forced my fingers into the crack that had opened and shoved the door aside with all my strength. "Sir, I must inform you that passengers are not permitted in there without the express permission of the captain." "I don't think he'll mind." When I had an opening big enough to squeeze through, I took it. As I dove to the floor, the door shattered as a projectile burst through and hit a monitor on the bridge. I jumped up and looked for any weapons. There were a few cabinets along the back wall, so I went to the closest one. It was locked, but no match for my skills. I quickly had it picked, and I threw open the door. Champagne. Not much help there. Crunching noises came from the entrance as the bots rolled over the remains of the door. I ran to the next cabinet and unlocked it just as the first bots entered the room. I threw the door open and saw several blaster rifles nestled in their slots. "Stop, sir! That is not permitted!" "Blow it out your exhaust vent!" I grabbed one and spun around while diving to the side. It was a good thing, too, since another projectile flew by so close to my ear that it almost made me go deaf. I fired randomly, but didn't hit anything as I rolled behind a chair. "Sir, the use of firearms is strictly That time I hit something. I next took out the 2 bots who were reloading their crossbows. After that, it was a simple matter of eliminating the remaining unarmed ones. Minx had given me a lot of practice at shooting moving bots. I forced myself back to my feet and searched the bridge controls for the buttons that would turn the power back on. Fortunately, things were well labeled and I found what I needed. I could see, though, that Stella was right. It would take several people to fly this thing properly. I had to hope that enough of the crew was still alive that could do that. Before leaving, I searched the remaining cabinets and found some energy bars and bottled water. As I drank and chewed, I also found a captain's uniform. I quickly changed out of my borrowed clothes and transferred my meager belongings to the uniform pockets. Once finished, I admired myself in a mirror. And I must humbly admit that I looked darn good in that uniform. Now that the power was back on, I took the elevator down to the entry level. I held a blaster rifle at the ready and ran as fast as I could back toward the dome building, where I assumed the men were about to get cooked. I hoped I got there in time. When I was 100 meters from the dome, 4 more butler bots emerged from inside along with a couple of blue-shelled Yshtari. They were heading straight for me, and this time all of them were armed. I dove to the ground and took out the bots first. A couple of projectiles zipped over my head, but it only took a few seconds to put them out of commission with a well-placed blaster shot. I next aimed at the Yshtari, but my shots bounced off their shells. I changed tactics and fired at the eye stalks. As I'd hoped, the eye stalks retreated inside the shells, leaving them temporarily blinded. I took off at a run toward the closest bot. His gun had already been fired, though, ruining my plans to steal a more appropriate weapon to use against the blue shells, since I had no idea how to reload it. As I searched about for an unfired crossbow, the Yshtari's eye stalks re-emerged. They brought their weapons up and aimed at me. Before they could shoot, I fired a random volley at their eyes again and jumped out of the way. Their eye stalks retracted as they fired blind. Both projectiles struck the place I had vacated. I scrambled over to the next downed bot, swung his unfired crossbow up, and launched it into the shell of the closest Yshtari. Once I heard a satisfactory crunch, I dashed to the next closest gun and repeated the process on the other alien. Once the last Yshtari fell, an unnatural quiet seemed to hang in the air. I'm not sure why, but I sat there and laughed. I guess I felt amazed to still be alive. Maybe I was getting the hang of killing these Yshtari. Once I recovered, I stood back up and hefted the blaster rifle. Since there weren't any more bots or Yshtari coming out of the dome, I crept toward it. When I reached the door, I heard a moaning sound coming from the other side of the cargo pods that I'd fooled the other bots into firing at. I walked around them, rifle ready, to investigate the noise. Minx lay there on his back, a large metal projectile embedded in his torso. "Minx, what happened?" He let out a metallic cough. Yeah, I didn't know bots did that either. "I was trying to make a distraction so you could escape." Oil oozed out of his wound. "Did I succeed?" So Minx had been the miracle that moved the containers. I knelt down beside him and put my hand on his shoulder. "Yes, Minx, it worked. You saved my life. Thank you." He let out another synthesized cough. "I'm glad. Sir, it was nice working with you. Give Miss Stella my best." With that, the LEDs on his display went dark.
This has been a presentation of Big World Network. Visit us on bigworldnetwork.com for more free weekly series, or follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Thanks for listening.
You're listening to Big World Network.